start soon. Recording is starting. Excellent. Yeah, just to recap for people watching, if we just some of us are just back from Bitcoin Unleashed in London this past weekend. We got to meet up in person. I think of the 5 people here, 4 of us got to meet up in person, so that was really great. Snazzy had a panel discussion on BNS, which I heard went really well. Leather had lots of fun activities, flying paper airplanes, stuff like that. So one of the, I thought today we would, so we left last 2 weeks ago, we said that we would, I would make a sort of take a stab at writing a proposal to create like a working group focused on upgrading the BNS Stacks contract. And I've done that, and I will momentarily share a link. I've sent it, I know, to Snazzy already. I'll share a link in the chat. And so I thought we could talk about that. We could also talk about the sort of the issues that we discussed in person. I mean, most importantly, update Hank and to see what he thinks as well too. How does that sound? That sounds great. Mm-hmm. This is actual work. Okay, let me just share the link. And maybe Snazzy, when we start talking about what we discussed at the conference, takeaways, and then we can go to this afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start, or you want me to start?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So,
awesome.
In essence, we kind of discussed in length how, and this was sort of following on from the last working group call that we had regarding communication and coordination, and just being more organized, and I guess being more of a sort of a collective group, rather than sort of individuals doing their own thing and then kind of coming together and discussing what we've done. Just being a little bit more coordinated, a little bit more organized, and yeah, just ensuring that we move the needle forward for BNS. So I think, from the previous discussion in the last working group call, and obviously at the event, I think some of the most important things for us are that we need to have kind of milestones or goals or objectives that we need to sort of work towards, basically. And that's something that we've kind of not had. And again, this is, all due to sort of working fairly independently, if you like, and then sort of coming together on these calls to discuss, oh, I've done this, or I've done that. But yeah, I think it would be good for us to have, a dedicated group chat. I personally think probably Discord kind of fulfills a lot of the needs that we have. I know Console was suggested in the last working group call. And I've kind of had a look at Console. I'm not sold yet on Console because it's not quite as feature rich, let's say, as Discord. Yeah, so that's the starting place for us, and that's where we can get together and we can discuss and we can update each other as to the conversations that we've had, the things that we're doing. If we want to use some sort of project management tools, then that might help as well. There's this, I mentioned it in the last working group call, there's this SCIF, decentralized project management tool that Will has introduced me to, will.btc. So I don't know what other ideas everyone has, but I think now, especially after Bitcoin Unleashed, now is the time that we need to sort of knuckle down and make sure that we're coordinated and organized, and continually sort of holding each other sort of to accounts to a degree, or having a degree of accountability, and just ensuring that we're all on track and that we're not overlapping too much and things of that nature.
That
I know we talked about tools before, especially chat. I think in addition to chat, do we have a board somewhere, like a project board on GitHub, that we could just keep track of like initiatives, essentially, like categorize them by larger projects, whatever. It's like having like a global async area to go and just see where things are at and contribute between these meetings as well. In a structured way could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a GitHub, but I think I don't know who's in it. I know Gina's on it. The only thing I'm using was posting meeting updates. There is a like initiatives repo. That's, I mean, I'm not set on this. We can use whatever we want. I don't really care about the tools. I think though, it's on a higher level. Another thing we talked about was like the important things for the ecosystem, and I think one top thing was the sort of the conflict, just the continuing conflict between L1 and L2. And the second thing was the Nakamoto release. And I think the third thing would probably be like partnerships, like visibility, marketing, all this sort of stuff. Like, you give a good example of that. Like, so one of the things that the BNS Council has been asking for is the ability to send Bitcoin to names. And it turned like so Ken of Experts approached me like a year ago, maybe early this year, to do this. And I wrote a spec for him, wrote a blog post, published a spec, and then like didn't really keep track of what happened to it. And then it turns out that Mark here at Leather actually implemented it and shipped it. So we already had this functionality, but like I didn't know it. I don't think the BNS Council knew it. And then like experts who originally asked for this like functionality didn't do it. So like it just sort of, there's a whole bunch of like, wow, we all sort of like, I mean, everybody except for Mark dropped the ball. Mark actually scored a goal, but didn't tell anybody. Oh, he told everybody, but it's like, I don't know, it just disappeared into the algorithm.
Yeah,
that seems like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Larry, that was you know, the thing that you'd sort of coded on GitHub with regards to the it had something to do with assigning an address, didn't it, to whatever name was within a wallet or something like that. Something along those lines, wasn't it? It was like an automatic sort of like assigning an automatic address, like a Bitcoin address, and that being sort of a single standard that everyone uses. Because as far as I understand, experts use a different type of Bitcoin address, don't they, to Leather?
I can't. I think like so they're basically. I know this is a little bit of a side discussion, but like basically very quickly you can link a name. It doesn't have to be a BNS name; it could be any name, DNS name, ENS name, with an arbitrary address for any chain, like so Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. So I just made a spec based on like already existing DNS standards, like used across the internet to connect the two. Like, so I just basically created a convention. Like if you put this record in like that, like if you put the name in this record, then we'll look there for the address. But the question is, sorry guys, I'm a bit sick actually after the conference, so I'm still recovering. The question was like, oh, the issue is that like linking names, at least on BNS, requires you to like do an update transaction and somebody to make a bunch of tools to do that. And so like my thinking would be nice if there was just like a default address. So in terms of sending, like this spec actually also is for sending to stacks as well too. So you can send, there's two Hanks now here. That's really freaky. Like it also works for stacks. It works for like if you use the spec with Ethereum, it would work with Ethereum as well too. And so with stacks, you get a default address, which is the account that like owns the name, and you can calculate a Bitcoin address from that. And so my thinking was like, well, since users are lazy and they're not going to probably do this anyway, we might as well just like have a default. It just default goes to this address. But as Mark has so kindly told me, that you can only calculate legacy addresses, which nobody wants to use anymore because they're expensive. So long story short, it requires, it's not ideal. Like you need to actually like basically connect your wallet to a Bitcoin address to get it the functionality, which no wallet has built in. But yeah, does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Mark, Hank has left the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, that was our dream right there. Two Hanks. But unfortunately, yes, it's to no avail. Yeah, no, that's kind of pretty much kind of you've explained, yeah, what I was attempting to explain, but explaining horribly. So yeah, in short, that will not work. That solution won't work then for Xverse. Larry.
Actually,
it actually will work. They just need to have like a connect, like choose your Bitcoin wallet that you want. They could do it automatically, right? They could even like just be like, would you like to link your wallet? Like yes or no, and then like yes, and then just like they could even subsidize the transaction so it doesn't cost the user any money. I mean, Leather could do the same thing. They could make it a lot easier. It's just a question of development resources, and like also a question of, does that functionality belong in a wallet, or does it belong in like some name management software somewhere else? Like it's really a question for the two product teams, like how much do they want their products to do?
And you can on dots, you can do this pretty easily. It's not like a BNSX thing. In fact, it doesn't even work with BNSX. It's just a sort of zone file updater tool. And so you can, go in, put your Bitcoin address, bada bing, bada boom. And that works with what Leather, implemented to your standard.
So dots supports this too, and we didn't, like, nobody knew this. There's a communication.
Oh, it was in the announcement that you.
This is what I've been saying all along, guys.
It's tweet that got 102,000 views. No one saw it.
Oh, it was in that same tweet thread?
I think we mentioned dots. Yeah, that was
because I literally just read the thread this weekend when he sent it to me.
Yeah.
I also missed it again. Maybe I have reading comprehension issues.
I do think that there are different ways to solve the sort of usability problem, and we do have one. Like this tweet thread that we put out in March, this is like the best instructions on how you actually bind an address to your name, but we don't in Leather yet provide any indication of that, which is just like a huge gap. And so, like at the very least, having something in the UI, we say, hey, do you want to do you basically want to receive Bitcoin to your account via your BNS name? Go here, even if it's a link to like dots or anywhere else. That would be a huge step from where we're at currently. Like that's what I'd recommend as like just the first thing we do. And then we can also bake things in to the wallet so that you could just find it from the wallet. But I think I do have a bit of like this this sort of feeling that the more we try to bake into the wallet for BNS management type stuff, the more there's be a tension of like how much of that actually should live in its own app, which is like the users in the context of BNS management in general. But we can discuss that sort of, I guess, tension. And then there's also a question. I was talking with Chris of Console the other day about this actually.
Is that Chris behind you in the screen?
No, it's not. He's not.
Oh,
he's not my. Yeah, he's not here for working space. But he is here in Barcelona. So we were also talking about how when you register a name like btc.us or wherever, that could also be a moment in time when you do this, right? Because the registration app connected to a wallet could say, hey, I see you also have a Bitcoin address that you've already connected to this registration app. Like, would you like to bind this at your newly registered name? That actually might be the best moment to do it, because if they've registered, let's say with Leather or Xverse, and then later we say, let's get them to bind to a Bitcoin address, you've kind of you've separated the moment in which it makes the most sense, which is when you first got the name. So this could also just be on the registrar sort of side as a feature.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the thing.
Sorry, I did. I have a fork of BTC.us. I think I added that in as well too. Like when you register the name, like it asks you to add a Bitcoin address and a Nostr name, so a Nostr address. So like that way you can do it like when you're paying the first time instead of having to like pay to do it again later. So
yeah, it's removing as many barriers as possible for users. Because obviously at the moment, if you want to add a Bitcoin address, you have to, to your name specifically, you have to go to btc.us, don't you? And it's just, you know, for yourself, Mark, with Leather, and also obviously with Ken with Xverse, it's just removing as many barriers as possible for BNS, for the BNS community and for the BNS users, so that they don't have to go through all those additional steps in order to add their Bitcoin address, or the right Bitcoin address, let's say. So that's something I think that's I think for the community is probably quite a big priority. And this is all, and this is also where the whole kind of well, to a degree, where the being on the L1 stems from. You know, it is that direct connection to Bitcoin, and the fact that, you know, their L1 names are directly connected to a Bitcoin address. You know, instantly. You know,
except you can't use that Bitcoin address for receiving Bitcoin. Otherwise, you will. I mean, you could, but then like you're probably going to send your name away when you do that. So like if you look at how wallets implement that, they have a Bitcoin address for ordinals and a Bitcoin address for money, because like you have to like not like lose the sat that owns the ordinal. Like you have to not lose that one sat. Otherwise, you lose your name or you lose your NFT. So like because of that, you can't really. I mean, you could. I don't know if do any wallets like work that well where they can control the coin so well that you can mix ordinals and money?
We're sort of getting there. I mean, like, I think if you go back to February, March, we definitely kept things very separate, like Taproot for ordinals and like native SegWit in our case for Bitcoin. But then users inevitably are going to end up depositing the wrong thing in the wrong address, or they come from other wallets, whatever. So over time, we've actually tried to build out the support for either on both. And so these days, for example, you could have ordinals on the native SegWit address in Leather. And if you get Bitcoin as the Taproot address, we help you retrieve it to the native SegWit. But the next step we want to do is actually add the non-ordinal Bitcoin you have in Taproot also to your regular Bitcoin balance and allow you to send it safely. So I think where the puck is going here is that I think it's going to be agnostic as far as like what kind of address things are on. So it's true, Larry, that currently that's the case, like with L1 domains, like it'd be tricky if you send Bitcoin to it. But I think if you fast forward 6 to 12 months, that might not be the case in general with wallets. I mean, I don't know if other wallets are going to do the same thing, but at least on the other side, that's our attempt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you have to scan. So you have to be online and scan. Like basically, you have to scan a bunch of indexes to see what's in your wallet. Like
that's
before you can.
Yeah. You rely on the API to tell you what's what, and if the API messes up, there is a problem. So we do still recommend.
Or like if you send it before you've scanned.
If you do what? You send.
Like I don't know. Say the API messes up, right? And like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't show something there, but maybe the API is like re-indexing or something, right? And then you send it, and you're like, oh, that index wasn't up to date. Oops, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we do still recommend.
There's a bunch of timing issues.
Yeah, we want people to recommend people deposit ordinals into Taproot for that edge case possibility. But I don't think long term it's very sustainable to have people partition based on addresses, because it's just there's so many ways in which it goes wrong, like normal sort of terms. That I think it's best to solve those problems versus like the edge case of the indexers, sync orders.
Yeah. The L2 to L1 solution, Hank, is that pretty much sort of finalized now? Is what additional tasks need to be done to fully complete the launch?
Yeah, I actually have good news. The first name was bridged this morning, finalized basically. So I'd say it's in like a beta state. I don't want to say, hey, everyone go put your best name through this thing, whatever. There's so number one, yeah, please go check it out. I added some documentation, and then on Dots, there's kind of the app flow for it. Then basically just need better like collection support. So Gamma's been supportive, but like they obviously need to kind of like these inscriptions to exist before sort of starting that collection. And then similarly, I think, if we're going to make a splash about this, then I think it'd be great to have like some early adopters. So it's sort of like, not kind of going from a blank slate if someone's going to check it out. So anyways, yeah, it's live, but I don't want to make a ton of noise about it yet. I'd sort of rather, yeah, not just you guys, but like, BNS kind of like core users who are most invested to try it out. And yeah.
Brilliant. Good. That sounds good. Really cool. Yeah, I mean, in terms of speaking to the ordinals marketplaces, I'm trying to currently get sort of back in touch with Unisat. I was in contact with them during the summer, and then a few months has passed, and I need to sort of touch base with I believe they're one of the founders. And I think as well, Nat has been in touch with Magic Eden as well. So we have, we've potentially got 2 ordinals marketplaces there that are hopefully going to be sort of happy to sort of launch this on there. And so that's a start, I think. And then obviously the next big one would be Ordinals Wallet, I believe.
Nat asked me, she forwarded a message from Unisat basically asking for like API endpoints. So I sent that her way. And that's also on the docs that I linked.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, so they're kind of pretty much ready to go then, Unisat, in that sense.
I'm not sure. I mean, that's as far as I know, is that the message she forwarded said, it seemed like they support it for resolution and querying. That's what they said.
Okay. Brilliant. Oh yeah, so BNS V2. Is the contract for that kind of pretty much finalized, Hank? Is it pretty much finished, or does it need to be kind of tweaked here and there? And so how far along are we?
No, I mean, there's practically no contract work on V2. It's very much like I mean, I've been trying to get more consensus, around what it exactly should be before really diving in. I think there's a lot of things we agree on, but yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I would love help on, is like getting to consensus there, where like sort of figuring out how do we move forward. I think there's a lot of kind of different approaches, and I think it also really requires some community kind of like outreach and someone to sort of, I don't know, work on that. I think there's the aspect of a SIP as well, which I think we've basically, pretty much all agreed on, that some sort of SIP would be, a good kind of give some more, I don't know, weight behind this change.
Okay. And what would that involve? Sorry, what is a SIP? Firstly, sorry, non-technical person there.
No, it's a non-technical thing. It's like just a document. If you go on like stacks.gov/SIPs on GitHub, it's like it's a stacks improvement proposal. So it's just
oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like saying, hey, we're going to do this, like for, any previous stacks changes. They've said, here's exactly what it is. There's some sort of voting mechanism. And it's just kind of it's just like a way of making community-led changes.
Right. I see. Okay.
Snazzy, you're killing Hero.
It's like a design. Think of it as a design specification. It just like tells you like what you're going to do, and then separately from that, you have like all the codes lives in a different place, but essentially is a design specification. Think of it like a architectural diagram, and that's what you're going to do. And then you have the actual building that's been built physically, but this is architecture diagram basically. That's it.
I see. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm from
Yeah,
the business development world.
It's inspired from Bitcoin, from BIPs, Bitcoin Improvement Protocol, which are or Bitcoin Improvement Process. It doesn't really matter what it means. And then which is also inspired from RFCs, which are like the Internet Engineering Task Force, like requests for comments, which are very similar documents written since like the early 80s that say like, this is what TCP is, this is what IP is, like this is how HTTP should work, like that sort of thing.
Okay.
So there's a long history of these in internet engineering.
So what, Hank, what would you say are the main things that we need to reach consensus on with regards to the V2 upgrade?
Let's see. I mean, we only have a minute left. I'd say let's circle back async. I mean, this is a good sort of impetus to make sure that we're like communicating outside of these meetings. Yeah, I just, I kind of got it in my head, but I'd rather just sort of be more specific.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously the multiple names to an address is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And obviously we have only one or two individuals that I think disagree with that, compared to
just to jump in, since we're running late, the link that I sent, so we didn't get to talk about this, but we'd like to, I mean, I think it would make sense to put this into a more formal working group, so at least so we can get more visibility. Like I would propose that at least to start, we make just like a working group that's solely focused on a BNS L2 stacks contract upgrade that's timed for the Nakamoto release, just because the Nakamoto release has some bugs need to be fixed. And then, so I made, you can check out the forum post. I filled in some of the parts. We talked a lot with Snazzy, and I talked a lot with Mitchell. We've done an email thread with him as well too about this, and he's very supportive. There's a list of deliverables and timelines. I think one of the things we can add to deliverables is like community feedback, and then figure out what that is. And then maybe it's a survey, maybe it's someone talks to each one of the exchanges. I don't know what the parts are, but then if we can get some progress on that, and then we need someone to lead that. And I don't know, maybe Snazzy wants to sort of drive that and harass people and make sure that we're doing what we need to do, or somebody wants to do that, and then we probably pull in. Yeah, you do it in a very positive way, so it's so people don't feel like they're being harassed. That's awesome. But yeah, I think that would be a really good way to start getting some positive movement on the upgrade. That way we have a list of things we're going to do, and we can do them, and then we have Mitchell watching over us to make sure we do it.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so in essence, yeah, we need the community to be involved in, some of these key decisions with regards to the BNS V2 upgrade. So, but yeah, in terms of, I'm sure it's probably hard to put an ETA on this, but in terms of ETA, Hank, do you think probably by the end of the year we could potentially upgrade the contract?
I think by the end of the year we could have something on testnet, but just given the complexity around testing, the sort of, the actual kind of community oriented things, I think unlikely, but certainly I think well before Nakamoto, which is slated for hopefully April, and I think certainly before then.
Okay.
So one of the things we talked about was that would be great to make BNS 2.0 contract a sort of a part of, not necessarily part of Nakamoto, but it could be part of that announcement, and SPDC and BNS 2.0, sort of that sort of timing. So if we work backwards from there and try to be ready in advance, maybe that's a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll get a group sorted for us. So So yeah, because as I say, we just need to be far more coordinated and have better communication as to what everyone's doing, what everyone's working on, where everyone is with regards to conversations and things. But yeah, real.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Real great.
Great to see you all.
Good to see you, chaps.
See you. Bye bye.